everybody. I'm here with Russell Ybarra, the owner of Gringos. He's also the master enchilada roller. He doesn't care for the term owner as much as he likes the term manager, or what did you call it? You called it something in your book.
I manage stuff. And basically, if I do a good job of managing what's been given to me, what's been entrusted to me, I'll be given more to manage. And that's really what's happened over the last 30 years. We keep growing, and it's because I believe myself and my team are doing a good job.
You talk about you keep growing. I think right now you're at about 2,600 employees. That's like, I've been to small towns that have a mayor and like a police department that have fewer people than that. I mean, this has been an amazing success story. I want you to talk to me about the January 11th, 1993. You were standing somewhere close to where we're at right now.
Pretty close, yes.
Yeah, and what was the thought process? Because a lot of people have this idea when you're in business that, you just knew at the beginning it was going to be fantastic. What were you thinking at that time?
I wanted to survive. I wanted to help offset the payment to that building that our family owned. It was $4,852.10 a month. It was a very difficult payment to make. I was the one that was responsible for writing the check out each month to the bank, but the building was empty. And I didn't want to go back in, but I had no choice because my dad was not going to let the building go back to the bank. But also, I was scared because the building had already been home to 4 other restaurants and they all failed. And so it just forced me to have a different outlook on how I was going to approach this. And it was literally no longer about making money. It was all about providing the very best product I knew how to make and offer it at the very best value that I could.
You talk about, in your book, by the way, the book we're talking about is Enchilada Entrepreneur. All the proceeds of the book go to Camp Hope.
That's correct.
That's what got me excited about it. Then I read the book, and then I realized the book itself is very good, and that made me want to do this. So
it's good to hear.
Yeah. So you talk about not being money motivated. I mean, that you have a piece about that in the book that is, it is flat out profound.
Well, everything I had attempted up to that point was about money. I wanted to make money, but it seemed like every time I focused on making money, I never made money. So it really did force me to have a paradigm shift. It was no longer about money. It was about producing the very best product I knew how to make. Keep in mind, back in 1993, and there still are today, but there's a Mexican restaurant on every corner. And so you have to ask yourself, how do you carve out a niche that will separate you in some way than everyone else? And it had to be in the quality. It had to be in offering a great value. But the point of difference, I guess, that helped us early on was the fact that we did more than what other restaurants were doing or offering. For example, you go to a Mexican restaurant, you get your traditional chips and salsa, red salsa, but we also do the green sauce, which is a very, very expensive item to serve because it's sour cream and avocados and tomatillos and jalapenos, and it's just very expensive. And then also we do the free soft serve ice cream as guests are leaving the restaurant. But those point of differences helped. But then again, really, I think what really separated us and still do today is the people that we hire. That's our big point of difference, because without them, I don't care how good your product is, you're not going to go very far with it. So our people.
Sure. In your book, you talk about like early hires, like fantastic early hires that helped you become a successful one location kind of company. And then you talk about later hires that helped you kind of grow into the mid cap.
Yes.
You want to talk about like those, this is the part that blows my mind. There's a little bit of luck in this.
Yeah, a lot. So I was very fortunate that in my 20s, I worked with other individuals at El Toro in Baytown, and one of those was Hugo Ybarra, and he and I worked together in the kitchen at the El Toro and Decker and Bayway, and so I just, we had already built this bond. I knew his work ethic, and so when I opened up this restaurant, I knew the very first piece of the puzzle had to be the kitchen, because we are serving a food product. So I knew Hugo was important to that component, and then shortly after Hugo, there was another gentleman that brought on John Fernandez, who actually lived just a couple of streets over from the restaurant, and he would visit the restaurant with his brother, either lunch or dinner time, and I was very attracted to his personality, outgoing personality, and I knew I needed that for the front of the house. So I had the kitchen, I had the front of the house, and then from there, started slowly building a team that has evolved to, we now have a full-time general counsel, a full-time chief financial officer, but really it was about visualizing the puzzle, every piece that was going to be needed to build what we have today. But everyone's important, every single person. And I don't, even when I walk into the restaurants today, I really look at our dishwashers with a completely different eye than I would say most operators, or some operators, should I say, because I was a dishwasher once, and so I know what they go through. And I'll tell you right now, I never in my entire life have washed the number of dishes that they do at our restaurants today because of the sheer volume that we generate. So everyone's important. Every single person that works for us is important.
Yeah, you talk about that in your book. You talk about that in detail, even making some suggestions around that stuff. You talk about trade secrets. I mean, like I read this and I was thinking, I want to give this to people I know in business. But because I like Russell, and Russell seems to be a pretty nice guy, I'm not going to give it to Tex-Mex operators anywhere near one of his restaurants. But it's like, I read in here and you're just like giving secret after secret after secret away. And then later in the book, he talks about actually like working with other Tex-Mex operators, trying to help them when they're in the same market.
Yes. So I'm a believer that if my competition gets good or better, I get better. And so even just yesterday, speaking of restaurants, there's a new restaurant opening today in Houston called Toca Madera. And the owners are from California. This is their 4th location. It's very high-end Mexican food. And I dropped them off a couple of signed copies. And I said, thank you for bringing Toca Madera to Houston. Because, again, I think they will elevate the dining scene. They'll force everyone else to get better. And that's what really the marketplace is all about, improving where we can. Yeah.
I'm like speechless. That's fantastic. I read your book and I felt convicted because of the way I compete. I'm ambitious in competition, and I've watched some of the things you've done with like your Fuquay location where you ended up turning your competitor into part of your parking lot. And I'm like, that's just, and I know you don't even intend to do that. You don't.
Yeah, that's an interesting story that would take too long to talk about, so I'm going to leave it there.
Right. Okay, so a lot of people have the idea that like you have the Midas touch. Everything you do turns to gold. You tell over and over in here how you make mistakes.
Oh,
and you're like warning people. Like if you get to this level, these are the mistakes you might make. If you get to this level, you make. So
I don't like making mistakes, but at the end of the day, we tend to learn more from them. So I'm not afraid of making a mistake, but we do the best we can to make sure that we minimize the impact that it could potentially have should we make one. But I opened up a seafood restaurant back in 2006. I call it my $2.9 million seafood platter because it would have been a lot less just to go down the street and buy a seafood platter from Papado. But we called it Gringo's Seafood Kitchen, and we opened on October 1st of 2006, closed it December 31st, 2007, and we moved on. But even within that, and Napoleon Hill talks about it in his book, The Law of Success, in 16 Lessons, that within every failure is the seed of an equivalent success. So you must learn something from the mistake. And if you do, then it really wasn't a mistake. It was just a temporary setback.
Yeah, you talk about Napoleon Hill. You quote Steve Jobs, George Foreman, John F. Kennedy, Napoleon Hill, Jesus Christ, about 50 other people in your book. You don't
I don't remember, but okay.
Oh, yeah. You don't belabor the quotes, but you're picking out like really good success quotes.
Well, there's a lot of wisdom there, and we can, there's a saying that you could never live long enough, or you should always learn from the mistakes of others because you could never live long enough to make them all yourself. So I always pay attention to everyone, and even their successes and their failures, to see what they did right and what they did wrong. And there's so many of those all around us. There's great examples everywhere of how to be the best at something. If I was going into the convenience store business, for example, the first place I would go is Buc-ee's because the restrooms. They built an entire model around clean restrooms and quick checkouts. And that example is out there, yet it's amazing to see how there are still so many convenience stores that don't practice that. And it's so simple. It is so simple. But you have to admire them. They're a great Texas brand, and they did it just by clean restrooms and quick checkouts and everything in between.
Yeah, every business talks about they want this from this business, this from that business, but they want Buc-ee's bathrooms.
Yeah.
You know, so.
It's just a little effort, a little elbow grease, but those are things that a lot of people, a lot of operators, they see expense or they see costs associated with doing things. We spend so much money on our maintenance of our facilities. We are constantly improving them because we want to be around for 10, 20, 30 years from now. And you can only do that by maintaining your facilities. And unfortunately, a lot of people are not, they don't have a long-term vision of their business. I do. I don't plan on being around forever, but I would like the business to be around longer.
When this business we were having a hard time getting into this location, you were chopping off a third of it to remodel it piecemeal. And
Yes.
we were grateful you didn't shut it down to remodel it.
Yes.
But I mean, it was just, why do you remodel a business that's, you can't get into? That's a dedication.
Well, whether it's a building or a commercial building or your home, the day you move in is the day it starts deteriorating slowly but surely. So again, we just pay attention to those things. And there's a lot of wear and tear. If you think about just the sheer number of people who walk through our buildings every single day. It's just, it takes a beating, but we try to keep them as fresh and up to date as possible.
What was Jimmy Chonga's? I mean, come on.
So
you got you got the most successful.
So Jimmy Chonga's came about because of a young lady by the name of Heather McKeon, who at the time was our chief marketing officer, who's our chief operating officer today. But there was a building about 2 miles away from the Gringos in LaPorte that closed down for I want to say the second or third time. And so we had an opportunity to open another concept. Now, we couldn't call it Gringos because it was so close to our other Gringos, but also because over time I had been keeping a running list of items that I wanted to serve at a restaurant, not necessarily Gringos because the menu was already getting pretty crowded. So everything from the stuffed avocado to the chili relleno and some other items. And of course, the menu has evolved and changed since we opened the first Jimmy's in 2011. That was kind of the thought process behind it. People ask me, what's the difference? I'll tell them it's the same but different. For example, the rice has a different color at Jimmy's. It's a traditional Spanish rice, whereas Gringo's is more of a Mexican or yellow saffron rice. The taco meat's a little different. It's a true picadillo where there are potatoes in it. The queso at Jimmy's is white. The queso at Gringo's is yellow. So there's a lot of subtle differences between the two, but they're more alike than not, other than the big difference between the two is the fact that one has a playground. Jimmy's has a playground, and Gringo's does not. The playground, or the actual name Jimmy Chonga's, is a play on words from chimichanga, and chongo is monkey, so Jimmy Chonga, but that's where it came from. So.
The first time I ate at a Jimmy Chonga's, I told my wife, this place is really good. It's kind of like Gringo's. I think this place could actually give Gringos a run for their money.
Yeah, we've had that happen several times. Yeah, we've had that comment several times. Yeah.
Awesome.
Always.
So I'm wearing the Plato Soldado, and that is a Gringo pronunciation of this place?
Okay, I'll help you with it a little bit. Plato? Can you say pla?
Plato.
Perfect.
Plato.
Soldado.
Dado.
Soldado.
Plato Soldado. When I order it, I always get the funny look from your waiters. But you give them like $2 a piece for the plates.
Yes,
and you didn't pick something obscure on your menu. You actually put together, like, if you're sitting down at a Tex-Mex and you want to try their combination plate.
It's my favorites. Okay.
Yeah, you gave us your favorite combination plate.
Of course, yes. I mean, and again, it goes back to the golden rule, doing everything the way you would want to do it if it was done back to you. So, yes, those are my favorites. There's, it's a great combination plate for a great cause. And I think to date, we're close to 1.4 million on just that one item of donating to Camp Hope, the PTSD Foundation of America. And there's a great story about the name Soldado. And that's why, we could have picked any name, but it's just, there's a great story behind that name and where it came from. So it's in the book. So you got to get the book.
Yes, it's
Amazon.com, Enchilada Entrepreneur.
It is fantastic. The book is absolutely wonderful. All the proceeds go to Camp Hope, a place that you're very familiar with and done a lot of work with. I strongly recommend people get it. Any place I post this video, it's going to have a link to that.
Good. Well, appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. It was good meeting you.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Let's keep going.
No. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.